Okay, so we're going to take a look at the first problem here. And the problem is Alex spent 3/7 of his money. He gave 1/4 of the remainder to his sister. He had $120 left. How much money did he have in the beginning? So go ahead and take a few moments and see what you can come up with to solve this problem. And I'll pause the video while you do that. Okay, so let's start taking a look at what we can do to solve this problem. And the first thing I want to say is that remember, we're going to solve this with a bar model. Bar model is not the only way to solve this problem, and if you chose another method, great, as long as you came up with the correct answer. But we're going to look at it with a bar model and see what we can do to attack it as simply as possible. So, in a bar model, or as some people call it, a tape diagram, the quantities are represented in a bar, and what we are looking for is the relationship that these quantities would have to one another. So the first thing we want to do is take a look at what information we're given and how we can represent that in relationship to the other quantities. And to begin with, we're going to start with this bar that takes up most of the page, and this is going to represent our total. Okay, and that's important because that's the relationship in this case that we want to find out, and that's really going to be the base relationship anytime or most every time that you use a bar model. So what do we know about the relationship of what information we're given to the total, which in this case we're not given? And the first thing that the problem tells us is that Alex spent 3/7 of his money. Okay, so we're going to represent that first of all. So what you see here is I've taken the total and I've added another bar underneath the total, and this bar is the same size as the total, so I'm going to have that relationship to the total. And taking what I know, I've divided it into 7 equal pieces, and I know that he spent 3/7. So that represents the amount that he spent. But what I should also see from this model is that there is 4/7 that he did not spend. So now I can go on and I can look at the next piece of information. The next piece of information was that he gave 1/4 of the remainder to his sister. So now I go back to my original diagram and I want to represent that. Those 4 boxes were what I said he did not spend, so that would be his remainder. So this next equivalent, or this next relationship, is going to be just to those 4 boxes. And of those 4 boxes, I'm told that he gave 1/4 to his sister. Okay, and notice how that lines up very well with what we've already got. And this is what he gave. And then the last piece of information that I'm given is he had $120 left. So I'm going to see how I can represent that on my diagram in relationship to what I already know. In this case, you'll notice that I drew another smaller bar. Okay, I did not include the quantity that he gave to his sister because we know that that is not part of what he had left. All that he had left at this point was taking away from the total what he had spent, what he gave away, and the remainder here is $120. Okay, so that's what he has left. Now, using this information and some understandings that I have about this model, I can quickly solve the problem from here. Okay, because one of the things I know, since these are 7ths, each one of these is 1/7, that represents 7 equal groups of 7 to give me my total. And when I drop down here, okay, I know that this was of the remainder, so I was divided into 4ths, so that represents 4 equal groups to make up that remainder. This remainder okay, is now made up of 3 equal groups. We can kind of show that like that. Okay, and those 3 equal groups are equal to $120. By knowing that information, I now know the size of every box because they are all equal sizes in this case. So each box in this row is worth $40. 120 divided by 3 equals 40. Okay, and each box up here is also equal to 40 because if these 4 boxes are equal to these 4, then I can extend that across and I know that each one is worth $40. And so I know that my total now is 7 groups of 40, or $280. Okay, so as a final step, then let's go ahead and see if this makes sense, if it answers the problem that was asked. And so we know that Alex had some amount of money. We are saying it's $280. And we're saying of that $280, at first he spent 3/7 of it. 3 times 40, he spent $120, meaning that he had $160 left. So this part here represents $160. And if he gave his sister 1/4 of 160, or 40, and he had 120 left, do all of those numbers add up to equal to 280 that we said he had at the beginning? And that works out absolutely great. He had 120 that he spent, 40 that he gave to his sister, 120 that he had left, and all of that adds up to 280, which shows us that our solution should be correct.